فيك الحب زاد عم العباد يا خير زاد رمضان يا شهر القرآن فيك أذوق حلاوة الإيمان لا تنقضي أنت للروح دواء رمضان يا حبيبي.
Good afternoon and welcome to Islamic Reflections on Lama FM, featuring our very own scholar, Ustaza Maha Hamwoui. We are happy to be with you every day during this blessed month of Ramadan, the most beloved month to God, subhanallah wa ta'ala. And we look forward to this time with you as we learn together about Ramadan and its spiritual benefits.
كم أهواك يا شهر الصيام أنا لن أنساك فأنت في قلبي دائما تمضي الأيام ودعائي كل عام ربي تقبلنا يا ربي بلغنا رمضان.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام الأتمان الأكملان على سيدنا محمد أبد الآبدين وفي كل وقت وحين وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Our session today is a continuation, of course, of our month of fasting series on fasting and of course the fruits of fasting as well. And we have mentioned a few of the benefits of fasting, and of course there are endless benefits, some that we know and some we definitely do not know, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is infinite in knowledge, and of course Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed fasting for us for the better of mankind, for the better of us, whether it's on an inner being level or on a physical level. And certain people talk about the physical benefits of fasting. Certain people talk about the psychological benefits of fasting. And people list and people send messages and people. I actually would like to concentrate on the benefits of fasting that are mentioned in the Quran. And the one who has mentioned them, obviously, is the one who decreed fasting and who commanded fasting as being a fard and being one of the 5 pillars of our religion. In the verse 186 of Surah Al-Baqarah, the cow, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, and that was after actually the subject of dua, which means supplication or asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of certain needs that we have. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, and when my servants ask you, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, concerning me, indeed I am near. And he said, La ilaha illahu, I respond to the invocation of the supplicant when he calls upon me. So let them respond to me by obedience and believe in me that they may be rightly guided. This word here, rightly guided, is my concentration today, in fact, in our subject matter today. The word is ar-rashad or yarshudun, and the word ar-rashad or rashada is, in fact, it means to be not just rightly guided, but continuously so. And so, subhanallah, indeed, the word rashad or rashada means to be guided, but there is a difference between that word in the Arabic language and the word of al-huda, and they are translated both in the English language as being guided. Truth of the matter is, when you begin to understand that word in Arabic, you understand that it is in fact a continuation of guidance. You see, a lot of us start our route towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with a possible extra spiritual energy. Maybe we've heard a certain speech that motivated us. Maybe we've read a certain verse from the Quran that seemed to have hit the spot in our hearts, should we say. Something that has sometimes even a calamity, sadly enough, turns a person towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Youth, being young sometimes is really a keynote. I've seen a lot of our young people, and I taught quite a bit in our universities, when they have such as MSAs, like Muslim Students Associations or unions or such. And in that, you find them, in fact, encouraging one another and helping one another. And that motivates them to get started. I see the same students after they had gotten married and they had become busy with children and responsibilities and life in itself, all of it. And I find them that the amount of spirituality or the motivation that they had, the strength of it, has actually dwindled a little bit. It has diminished with the responsibilities around them. It doesn't make a person actually feel that they are going away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is just the matter of the strength with which they are approaching Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or the speed or the steadfastness, if you will. So ar-rashad is, in fact, it gives you the meaning in Arabic language of continuation on the straight path, and that is such a necessity. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was asked by a Bedouin. He said, "Ya Rasulullah, advise me. And do not tell me a lot, because I cannot comprehend so much, or I cannot internalize so much." Like he cannot remember too many details. So Ya Rasulullah, and he said, "Wa'awjiz." It means actually advise me, but give me that advice to be kind of short and sweet and to the point, and something I could live by all my life. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Say la ilaha illallah. Say, of course, no deity but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the true mannerism, of course, and understand it properly. ثُمَّ اسْتَقِمْ, that means, and remain true to that word all your life. So that is enough. And as I said before, repeatingly now, says اهدنا الصراط المستقيم, that specific dua that we make every single day, saying, Ya Allah, guide us, not even to the sirat itself, to the straight path, but onto the straight path. For the idea is that what we are asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has taught us, to make our deeds, the ones that are at the end of our lives, to be our last deeds, should be our best deeds. Which means actually we should be always in increase of faith rather than diminishing of faith. Truly, as we proceed in life, our bodily capabilities seem to diminish and our physical capabilities seem to be much less than before. And that is why Islam asks for us to begin when we are young. Youth is a very important issue to actually begin the route Islamically. But it is actually, as we proceed with our lives, it's such an important deal to, in fact, continue on with it, because life is ever so changing. A person goes through life through trials, through ups and downs, through different changes in responsibilities, as we have mentioned. But yet, to actually remain true to the word La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, that is really in itself is a ni'mah that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed upon a person, is one of the most important favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unto this person. I see as sometimes, and since we are in the Western community, possibly, if you will picture with me a route such as here in LA, we call it a freeway, and certain other states that I've lived in, they call it highway. And in all of it together, you understand it's supposed to be the point or the connecting the connecting line between 2 points that are, if you're on the route or on land, it should be the fastest route, such as turnpikes and so on and so forth. And we begin to understand. I'm not going to name them all, but the idea is that when you are on that route, the point is you would really like to have two things. You like to have enough energy in the car, if you're in a car, if we are to actually utilize this metaphor. And then you need to stay on that route as long as possible to get to the final destination, actually as fast as possible. And so actually the final destination, let it be not really necessarily death. No, not at all. But the final destination should be actually the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the acceptance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right, to that person that is trying to approach Allah subhanahu the fastest way possible and the closest mannerism possible. So ar-rashad means in fact two things. I should obtain all the energy I possibly can and then stay steadfast on the route. And if I need to, I should stop and obtain more energy. And that usually comes from certain worships, such as prayer itself. If you will, actually, prayer itself is definitely re-energizing on a spiritual level, and that happens 5 times each day. Renewal and re-energizing, refueling, and getting back onto the route. But as I actually re-energize, I should in fact get back on the route lickety-split and be very, very fast in my approaching of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's acceptance and pleasure. So what happens to people is that between now and then, and if I'm utilizing still the same metaphor, then we see some sort of a glittering billboard that invites a person outside of their route. Let's try to see what's out there. Curiosity. I need to, in fact, possibly live this specific experience for a moment, and then we exit. We see, we must, and we could engage, we could actually get interested, we could, I have no idea, but it could actually take us anywhere between a moment or two, or a day or two, or a year or two, if we are in that exit. It depends. And if that is the case, then we're out of ar-rashad. At that point, we're not guided on the continuation. We've stopped. There's a halt in our approach to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that halt actually does take away. It takes away from a lot of things. It takes away from our spirituality. You see, faith can be stronger and it can be weaker. And that is according to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, "Al-mu'minu al-qawi khayru min al-mu'min al-da'if." So actually, a strong, faithful person is better than a weak, faithful person. Yet he says, "Allahumma salli alayhi wa fi kullin khayr." And in every faithful person, there is goodness. So there is no problem with that. But of course, it does take away from the strength of the faith. It takes away from the time span that we have in our lives, that we can in fact be fulfilling that with goodness, or we can be fulfilling that with waste. And that's a pretty sad case. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us, he said, on Judgment Day, you will see your book. Your book will be presented before you. And as we see that book, by the way, that book actually is not just written. It's in fact somewhat of it's like our lives are actually going to be presented before us. It's in fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned it in the Quran that it is more of a 3D kind of a playback. So it's as though the whole lifetime is played back in front of us. So it's not a book that we see today of page after page, nothing like that. It's a book in its own right, of course, has this divinity touch like everything else does, but that specific divinity touch is very, very amazing, that it is mentioned to us that when we see ourselves again on Judgment Day, though, and we have wasted, according to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, maybe he said, if you see yourself that you have wasted even a moment without remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you'll feel like your heart is torn to pieces, just because of that moment that you have missed out on remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, on doing something good for the world that you're in today, which is the most important world, of course. And then he said, Allahumma salli alayhi, how is it about? What would you be feeling then, he said, if actually not a moment passes like that, but an hour after hour or a day after day where we have not remembered Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where we have not worshipped Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the regret then that's going to be overwhelming, and it'll wear the person inside and out. And that is something that we wish that we never have to deal with, regret. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has told us that as well. Ar-Rashad, actually, the Arabic word that goes against that word exactly. You see, when you say al-huda, the word that is in fact the opposite of it is ad-dalal, right? So to be guided or to go astray. And the word al-rashad, the opposite word to that is al-ghay. And so to understand that better is will put us actually or give us a better understanding of this word al-rashad, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that it is inshallah one of the benefits of fasting. Al-ghay is a word that in fact was used by Iblis. Iblis, of course, in English is Lucifer. That'll be the father of al-jinn or al-shayateen. In fact, in specification, al-shayateen, Satan's. And so then Iblis, in fact, has told Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said, فَبِمَا أَغْوَيْتَنِي. See, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has tested Iblis and he said to him to bow before Adam alayhi salam, then Lucifer refused. And he was haughty or arrogant. And he refused to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then in turn, he did not repent. He did not regret. He actually insisted. And he not just insisted, but he turned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, saying to him, you have put me through a test in which I was going to fail. There was no way I was going to succeed that test. So actually, al-ghiwa is in fact is a failed trial, if you will. And that is in fact what our life is all about. Not failing, but succeeding. And so in fact, it is all but trials. This is what we go through every single day and every single minute probably of every single day. Every single minute of the day brings us a brand new decision. And this decision, two sides to the decision. We can actually do it the right way. We can do it the wrong way. We can do it to where we are pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of course, or otherwise. And every decision that we have failed, it means in fact for the moment we've exited from the straight path. And that means we are not of ar-rashideen at that point. So you can understand that the word rashada is in fact the word meaning continuous guidance, meaning trying, subhanallah, to achieve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's pleasure and acceptance. We remember in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or straight after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's death, we can see that we had a Khalifa for Rasulullah, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, Umar ibn al-Khattab, Uthman ibn Affan, Ali ibn Abi Talib, and we call them Al-Khulafa al-Rashidun. It's an interesting take on that, but we do understand what that means. And it means, if you want to say well-guided, if you want to say the wise ones, if you want to say the ones that were fair, the ones that were, however you want to actually translate it, it goes anything that is goodly, anything. So they tried, these are al-Khulafa that tried to be like, to emulate Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in all aspects of his actions. And that is why the Ummah collectively then has in fact understood or has described them as ar-Rashidin. Also, we say, or we actually call a person who has reached puberty, we say Rashid. That means actually they are now capable of distinguishing right from wrong. Not only that, but they're capable to remain on the straight path or on the right side as much as possible. The idea is that to remain on the right side of the matters, or to remain correct for the longest period of time, is actually what we are after. To be right all the time is unhuman, but to actually want to be right, not to be right as in the sense of I am right, no, to be on the right path, to want to remain on the right path for all of our lives should be actually one of our goals, or it is our goal in fact, so that we reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and He is pleased with us. And to in fact to stay steadfast like that has proven, of course, time and time again to be extremely difficult. And alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that every single year we actually refresh all over again, and we go back to a course one more time. It's as though we go back to school one more time, and we put in fact our actions right there under the light of fasting, and we take a look at it. And then we see whatever it is that is right, we hang on to it, and whatever it is that is wrong, then we actually try to rid ourselves from, to stay, to remain, to continue, inshallah, onto our route towards a better faith for ourselves, and a better state of iman for ourselves, to where, inshallah, gradually but surely we are rising and we are bettering ourselves towards the pleasure and the acceptance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. With that, I will inshallah bid you salam, to meet again inshallah in our next session. والصلاة والسلام على الحبيب المصطفى العدنان وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. السلام عليكم.
We would like to thank our listeners for joining our program today. A special thank you goes out to Lama FM for hosting us and for giving us the chance to share Ustaza Maha Hamwoui's thoughts. We look forward to talking to you on our next episode of Islamic Reflections.